Good afternoon. How are you? Well, we've got the heat again, and it's bearable. There's no wind at all. So, what's going on? Well, the environment is causing problems that we caused ourselves. We do that very well. And we live in this fantasy world of people saying that what you and I do on the earth has no effect on the environment, even as we or our representatives or people without our endorsement decide to continue to pull up fossil fuels, releasing carbon dioxide and prompting the greenhouse effect, which has made all the changes in air and water and the elements of the earth around us, so that we see in a less predictable fashion, although somewhat anticipated, the effects of global warming. And from now on, always use the term global warming. And if somebody says climate change, say that's just a political term to avoid dealing with this disaster that's approaching that too few are doing anything about. And another example of how things are changing is that home insurers are now cutting natural disasters from coverage as global warming tears apart our environment. So the dollars and cents are not spent to fix it, nor to make you whole if something comes around and rips your house apart as a, quote, natural disaster. Now, it'll depend upon what your carrier does and what kind of insurance they have and so forth, but you want to look into that because this is all the rage in the insurance industry right now. Now, on happier news, how many things do you think you can handle at once? I'm not being facetious here. The classic example for a military leader is you don't want to have two fronts in a battle at the same time. Ask Napoleon. Because you have to deal with them and the very many multifaceted problems that arise. Okay, so what is comparable? What's comparable is what Trump is facing, and that is 4 trials and primaries. There are 20 primaries for him to be nominated as president, and the calendar is going to be in conflict with each other. And so this is going to be a pretty amazing juggling act. And at the same time, it costs personnel and funds and so forth. And I thought it might be interesting to talk about how do you defend a case like that or prosecute it. And one of the things that you've heard people complain about, particularly the defense in D.C., when Trump's lawyer was appearing before Judge Chutkan, and he was saying, I need more time to look at the information. Now, what is he talking about? Information in criminal cases for some time now has come almost entirely in a digital format, and there are volumes and volumes of it. Now, in days gone by, people would sit down and read the 1,000 or so pages. Now there are thousands of pages. So, what's a fella to do, or a woman for that matter, when you get such information? How do you make any sense out of it? And you'll hear courts say, well, you don't get to read it all. We deal with this data differently. Well, actually, it's the defense that deals with it differently. And no, I'm not coming out for Trump, but I think as you watch what goes on in the following days and weeks, this will be one of the biggest arguments. I want access to this information, and I can't do it. It's too voluminous, and what am I going to do? And the answers become, as a kid, I programmed computers and my undergraduate degrees in physics and engineering. So I've always been interested in information technology. And what that means today is Well, okay, let's say you get a single document of 1 million or 500,000 or 200,000 or 20,000. Now, I do know some lawyers that tried to just print that out. In one case I had years ago down in Richmond, Virginia. And that's not the way to go. But sometimes when you look at, say, a single page of a document, if you're used to PDFs, and probably most of us are, you can search the document, unless it's just a picture. So then you have a document you can't, quote, see digitally. So you got to turn it into a document that you can see digitally. And they refer to that as OCR. Now at the beginning that was occasional character recognition, but now we find it's more reliable, and PDF has some powerful tools. So you take all the documents you have and you make sure to convert them all into a digital format that you can search. Then what do? Then you index everything so that there's a way to find these documents. And then you need a search device. And there are, quote, Boolean search devices. And that means let's look up Mike within 10 words of bribe. Okay, so those are not facts in the cases that involve, well, actually maybe they are. But so you look those up, and it will, in the best programs, pull up the pages of the millions that correspond to that, and you can make a file with those items in it. And those might be the subject of examination or cross-examination at the trial. So this is how a modern case must be tried. I had some success in one case because some of the documents I got from the government, and they gave it to me in good faith, and they gave it to me on a hard drive. They had not scanned for character recognition a lot of the documents, and I did, and I found some very useful material in those Demdar Hills. So this is going to be, among some of the other fights, one of the biggest fights. We want to look at the documents, want to be able to use them, and want to be able to use them at trial in a way that makes sense for the defense. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is this is going on while there will be motions by the defense to say, in one case, remove the Georgia case to federal court. Up in D.C., they'll be saying, we can't handle that trial date. So there'll be a bunch of motions. But the underlying arm wrestling is going to be about, we didn't get sufficient discovery. We didn't know about this. They didn't tell us about that. And it's one of the reasons why I don't think I want to be a judge, ever. Not that anybody's breaking down my door. I did sit as a judge for civil commitments, and I thought that was helpful. And there weren't really discovery fights. There were concerns about what do you do with a person that seems to have lost their way, and sometimes it's just drinking, and sometimes they're just off their meds. But then there are a lot of cases where, and mostly I found schizophrenics, and for them, some of them, medication will set them right, but for others, there's nothing you can do, and that's the sad part of that kind of litigation. But my point is, there's a beginning, middle, and an end within several days. And for a trial attorney, that's a nice pointed discipline, whether you're the judge or the lawyer in the case. So I enjoyed doing that. But these trials that we're looking at with Trump are nothing like that. And so the good news is he's going to be crushed like the maggot that he is. And that's the way it should be, I think. You can't do the crime. If you can't do the time, you shouldn't have done the crime. So, and we're still thinking about Buffett today. And it was interesting. I sat out back today, and you may know this quote. He said, someone who is sitting in the shade today because a long time ago someone planted a tree. Buffett as Zen philosopher. So a little short today, but I look forward to talking to you tomorrow on Labor Day. Those of you who are laboring, I hope it's an efficient day. I'll be doing some work myself. And try to enjoy that part of the day you can, because Tuesday, there are no excuses if you're working. So all the best. I say goodbye to you on this road I sometimes go down that doesn't have many trees, but it's a very nice lane. Bye-bye.